everybody like knows like Michael Jordan smoking a cigar or Al Pacino or anybody like that. But when you see somebody younger like my age come in, like Joe Burrow, smoking a cigar, that's a big thing for the cigar industry. Well, it was cool because as a kid, you're like, well, if my dad came to school and told what everybody did, and he said rolling cigars, that probably wouldn't be cool to kids, but that's not what everybody else's dad is doing. So it just seemed normal to me. But I think it was more as you see how confident, as much as he believed it was hard to be like, well, why wouldn't it work? He makes it. You could see he believed in it and himself and how he talked about it. He was confident in what he wanted to do. He knew the cigars would come and be popular in itself, but just the interaction with him and other people, he knew that would sell the cigar before the cigar sold himself. So that's what he truly believed on. And then once the cigar started getting popular, and then Blanton's and everything came, everything he had always said just spoke for itself eventually. For sure, he did a lot of things. From working on Corvettes in California to owning bars and massage parlor down in Florida to owning restaurants, remodeling companies. So he's done just about everything you can think of. So with all that, he's just thought a cigar company, which is another check off the list of another thing for him to do. So he originally learned how to roll down in Austin, Texas at a place called Babalu's. And that's where I also learned how to roll. That wasn't enough for him. He wanted to know like the whole, history, everything about how cigars, like blending, all that. So he went down to Dominican and spent a month there, right outside of Punta Cana. So he went out Punta Cana, stayed at the resort, but then went into the town to try and find somebody just to talk to. Didn't know anybody. It's not like he had contact previous, and found a guy. Took him there on like the little moped buggy cart. Took him to the family farm. The guy's name is Papo. We still talk to him to this day. And showed him the whole farm, blending, growing, rolling, the whole 9 yards. That's where our logo was made, was down there in Dominican. They made it down there for us, our first bands and everything. So that's where the logo was designed, down there in Dominican and everything. And Papo showed Dad the whole process and let him come in every day for a month and roll for him. They would roll together and just talk and everything. And stayed down there a month and came back, and that's where he learned all his knowledge and experience from, was Papo just opening his arms and showing him the whole process of what his family does and is known for down in the Dominican. So, like I said, we still catch up with Papo and everything. He sends us pictures and videos of either him rolling or the family out at the farms and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to see. And like I said, that was in like 2006 or 7. So that he still stays in touch and tries to get in contact even through the years, different phone numbers, everything. He still finds a way to get a hold of us. So it's still pretty cool. To me, it's not just it's an art that I'm not just selling you a cigar. I'm hoping you're enjoying not just the taste, but the draw, the whole experience of it. And that's what my dad's always goal was, to make a cigar for anybody, whether you smoke cigars all the time or you never have, and you just want to try it for the first time. That's going to be enjoyable and reasonable for the people across the board. Most people don't get explained the process of how they can find out what a cigar is. So they're just trying to either a bunch of really expensive cigars or a bunch of really bad cigars, and it either ruins it for them or they eventually figure it out. Because I learned that the hard way. I didn't like my first 10, 15 cigars. I thought it was horrible. Don't know why anybody did it. Thought it made no sense. I was selling cigars and didn't even smell them. People used to be like, "You smoke them?" No, I just sell them. I can't stand it. Once I actually figured out, like, okay, you can't be rushing a cigar. Just smoke. You can actually sit and enjoy it. Like, take a breath. Like, you can't be moving a house and smoking a cigar. It's not what it's meant for. Yeah, you gotta sit down and enjoy it, whether it's like a beer or a fine wine. You just take time for it, and when you do that, it changes the complete experience.
So now that you got that under control and you like cigars now,
Yeah.
what's your favorite go-to pairing, cigar and?
So for me personal, I like what it's called a barber pole. So you have the two different wrappers as you're smoking. So whether it be mild to medium to full body, you have that two different wrappers. So that's mine. And then I always go for a Four Roses or Woodford. I like something that has a very little bit of sweetness on the end, like almost if you're having an old fashioned. So I like something sweet with a really mild to medium cigar. So when you pair that together, it's just really smooth. You almost don't have an aftertaste, in my opinion. At the end of the cigar, you can almost smoke it till it's almost burning your lips. That's how good it is.
So here at Castle and Key, our bourbon is our newest released spirit. It's pretty scarce out in the market, but we do hope to be able to see it on the shelves more commonly in the not too distant future. A lot of the common tasting notes for our bourbon have been different things, some sugary, sweet, caramel and honey kind of notes, some stone fruit, apricot, things like that can be found in there, as well as some baking spice, some clove. A lot of those different kind of notes are often in there, and we do partner with the Kentucky Gentleman to have cigars made seasoned with our bourbon as well as our rye whiskey that we sell here on site. So Castle and Key, as we know it today, was established originally as the Old Taylor Distillery in 1887 by Colonel E.H. Taylor Jr. He was an instrumental figure in the history of bourbon and whiskey in America. Was responsible for multiple distilleries that are very noteworthy to this day. Places like Buffalo Trace, Woodford Reserve have his fingerprints all over them. This was his last distillery, though, that he worked on in his career, and the only one that he really built with a specific idea in mind, that he wanted it to be a bourbon destination. The same way we think of distilleries nowadays, at the time that was unheard of as a concept in the United States at least. But he was very inspired on some of his worldly travels. He had visited a lot of German beer gardens and really thought he could mimic that hospitality with distilleries in Kentucky, and in essence kickstarted modern bourbon tourism as we think of it today with this property. Now, here on site we have a couple notable things. The castle itself, our distillery, built to look like a castle to attract folks out here for the big parties that he used to throw here on site as part of those marketing techniques. And our spring house, which is the key for our Castle and Key. It holds the largest of the 5 naturally occurring springs here on property. It's the whole reason Colonel Taylor really built this place here where it is. He knew that it would be an invaluable resource for his bourbon production. It's where he got all the water for all of his bourbon from. He had a saying that the key to good bourbon starts with good water. That's very true for us in Kentucky because of the naturally limestone filtered water. It's just one of the many secrets to what makes Kentucky bourbon so special. It's a naturally limestone filtered spring inside of that spring house, so he built the structure around it to reflect that saying into the shape of a keyhole. So what we're in here right now, our retail space, is the boiler room. It was the power plant for the facility originally in the late 1800s. Basically what we're seeing right here where these clothing racks are is the original coal chutes. The train would have come right by where these windows are, dumped coal into those chutes to then be shoveled into one of these structures here. Would have heated up in the furnaces, heated the boilers, and powered this entire facility. Nowadays, it's where we have our retail store.